if you've got a Datsun 240, 260, 280Z, or 510, the rubber wipe that goes in the stainless trim that goes against the outside of your door window probably more resembles a rock than it does rubber. And so in this video, we're going to go over a solution to that. Here's the trim and the rubber wipe that I'm talking about on the Z car. 510's real similar. Here's the piece of stainless steel trim that clips down over your door. And this is the factory wipe from Nissan. You can see even on this one, there's like a chunk missing just because it's so brittle. This doesn't flex at all. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace these with some nice new rubber ones. So here we have some of the factory stainless pieces that have been taken off the car. You can see here on the back side, there's the staples that hold this piece of mild steel and pinch this piece of rubber on here. And so what I've found is the best way to take it off. There's a few different ways, but I'll come and actually grind the head of the staple off. And so then that way you can just basically peel this little piece of mild steel off. And then you just got to make sure that the little metal hooks on the back of the staple you get out, often they'll just fall out, or you just need to push them out with a punch or grab them with some needle nose pliers. Just make sure you're not bending up your factory piece of stainless. So it's pretty easy. You just got to be gentle though. Okay, so I've popped all the staples out. And again, I think it's easier just to get a real fine punch and just push them through. But you can see, hopefully you can see, inside here, you have the clips that actually clip over the little pinch weld on the top of the door. So we need to take those out. And the way I like to do it is I'll grab, you could probably do it with a screwdriver or anything. I'll grab a pick here and then slide them down to the end. You get the pick to just barely flex the little tabs so that way you can get them to pop out. Okay, so now that we have the clips out, with your new wipe, you're gonna get this piece of stainless steel. Nice hem in it. And so it's got some holes in it. So one side the hole's smaller, like this, and then on the other side, it's a bigger hole. And so there is a left and a right, driver or passenger, and the small hole you'll need to be facing outward towards you. And on the Z cars, let's see if you can see it here, there is a bend in the stainless trim that goes up. And so when you are lining this up, the small holes faces up towards you, and you can see that there's a little slit in this end, but there is not in the other end. And so this is to match the contour of that as it goes up. So you can see here that with that flex, or with that slit, this flexes up to match that up bend in the stainless trim. So just show you real quick what that looks like. See, there. And so then that follows that contour. And that's why we've done that. And there's a left and a right, again, like I mentioned before. Okay, so we have this. So you want to make sure that you're putting the right one on the correct side of the car. And then you're going to get a bag like this with the rubber wipe in it. And those will not be side oriented. They'll both be the same. We'll open that up. You can see here there's a little J leg on it. And on your stainless steel factory trim, you can see this is the top side right here. There's that little lip. And that J is going to sit basically flat against that inner sleeve and then be pressed right up against that lip. So that's going to be the correct orientation. And then that piece of stainless with the holes in it, the stainless hem, that's going to slide over this. So I'm going to show you that now. So we've got our factory piece right here, the rubber wipe, and the new piece of stainless, the stainless hem. And so what I like to do, there's a few different ways you could put this in, but I like to put that little J leg in the stainless hem piece, just kind of get it in there. And if it's part of it slips out as you're putting it on, it's not a huge deal. But the rubber wipe and the Z-Car is the same length as the stainless hem. And so you'll notice that, let's see if I can get the angle right. You can see here in the wear on this, that this piece where the factory rubber wipe was, does not necessarily coincide to the end. And so you're going to want to locate the rubber wipe in the same spot as the factory, because otherwise the wipe will interfere with the door frame. It won't cause it not to work, it'll just won't look right. And you'll have a gap on the opposite end. So anyway, here we go. And so what I like to do is, like I said, slide it into that stainless hem, and then on the back side of this, I'm just slipping this over that middle sleeve that's in the center here, and I'm just going to work my way along and pinch this on. Okay, and this isn't on all the way, but you can see that I've started it here, and so I've slid that stainless hem on there, and you can see the top is nice and pressed and sealed against this top lip. And so I've got it pushed on, you know, about to here. And so I just kind of make sure that I keep the rest of it inside that J, or the J inside the hem. And then you can kind of see I'm just working on down the line and making sure again that that little J hook on the seal stays inside that hem as I push it, so it gives it a nice pinch. Sometimes you might find that you've got something, like if the track on the inside's a little bent up, or you got boogers in there from the staples, you might have to hit them with a file real quick to clean them out. And that's what I'm finding on this one. I got a little booger right here, so I'm gonna have to clean that up, and then I'll be able to lay the rest of this in. Okay, so I cleaned up the little burr that I had from the staple inside there and got that to pop right back on. And so you can see it slid in there. There's the hem that runs along the inside. It's got it pinched. You've got a nice bite on that J part of the molding. And this is on there pretty good. But as your window's up and down, you're pushing on the top of this, we just want to make sure, you know, vibrations in the car. We want to make sure that there isn't a way that this piece of stainless can actually pop off. And so what we're going to do next is this hole on the end. And again, this is the small hole, the big hole's on the back side. We're going to drill an 1/8 inch hole. I'll just go right through the rubber and then through that real thin stainless right in here. And then this hole right here we don't need to use, and we're going to drill and put another rivet right through here, and that's going to ensure that this thing doesn't come off. And you'll see the reason this hole's here, because on the 510, like here's a example of the window trim for a 510, they're straight, but it's also shorter. And so on the 510, if you were using this, where that little slit is, you would actually just break that off. You'd bend it, fold it off, file off the burr, and then you could actually use this same piece of stainless trim for your 510 for the front, and just utilize these holes. So we'll go ahead and drill a couple holes in this. Okay, so we got both of those drilled with the 1/8 inch drill bit. It'll come with some 1/8 inch rivets, and if you don't have a rivet gun, you can pick up a hand pop rivet gun for 10, 15 bucks. They're pretty cheap and they're real handy to have a tool around the shop. Obviously there's pneumatic and electric and different things that are more expensive, but you can get nice and inexpensive ones. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that this rivet is going all the way through. Get a nice bite. And then we'll do the same thing on the other end. And after we get these rivets in, then we're actually gonna pop these clips back in. So we'll do that here in a second. And so with these clips, we're basically just gonna put them back into the stock locations or close to it. They don't have to be exact. They're just there to help grab the trim or the pinch weld on the top of the door. But you wanna make sure to put them back in, and you don't have to slide them back in, because since they are these types of spring clips, you can actually just push them back in. Okay, so we have all the clips pushed back in, and our new wipes attached. Should look like this. If you're doing this on a 510 that's shorter, this is easily trimmed with a box knife or a set of clippers, the rubber. And then like on the Z, on the front edge, I like to trim off this angle so it's a little bit more like the factory. Then you'll notice that this is wider. So it's a decent amount wider than the factory. And so when you roll the window up, it actually gets a nice bite on it. And while it's brand new, it can push the window in slightly. And if it's pushing the window in slightly, you know, just check to make sure it's tracking correctly. But what we found is that once you get a little time in it, it helps to, it's not a problem anymore, because this is softened up and its memory changes slightly to be up. But one of the temptations would be to trim this, and the problem with trimming it is that when you roll the window down, it's short enough that it likes to catch and suck it in. Whereas with this length and the angle at which it's at, when we roll the window down, it doesn't grab and try to fold this back under. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna trim that down, we tried that. And that's the risk that you run into, is that your window will catch it, because this is a nice rubber and doesn't have that felt on the back side. So when you roll the window down like this, it doesn't pull this in. But if you trim it, this will actually want to try to fold in. I mean, it'll still work, but it'll make it harder to roll your window down. So stainless trim, rivets, rubber wipe, available from Skillard.com. So you can take your factory stainless trim and put a nice new seal on it, instead of the rigid, breaking, falling apart ones that are 30, 40 years old.